I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been. Okay. So if they ask you how I feel, what's up? I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been. So if they ask you how I feel, what's up? I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been. I am. So if they ask you how I feel, what's up? I'ma tell you I feel amazing. I feel blessed, that's evident. I'm the best I've ever been. That's right. So if they ask you how I feel,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not adjust your smartphones, TVs, or computer screens. No, I am not Darnell Playmaker Solins. No, I am the EP of all EPs. And I'm also the man who's in charge of BS3 Presents, the morning shift of Cole Johnson, mentality, total football talk, and all that stuff. Cole Johnson, the host of all hosts and the mad scientist. That's right. I am in subbing for my man Playmaker because he's feeling a little bit under the weather. But we're still going to give you straight with no chaser action on the college gridiron scene. Now, let me see, in about 25 hours or so, kickoff to the Orange Bowl will happen. That's right. Notre Dame and Penn State will be going at it. And then Friday night, the Cotton Bowl's turn with Texas and Ohio State. Now, you all know that I have an affinity for Texas. I have a lot of choice words for them. But I do have this question for Playmaker. I thought James Franklin and Ryan Day had hot seats. Now that both teams are in the National College Football Semifinals, I bet you those seats are as hot as how it is outside in most of America. And right now for me, it's under 32 degrees. I told you, Playmaker. People forget about Michigan. They'll forget about the being losers in top tens with Penn State, and they'll focus on if they got to, or at least they got close to, the national championship, where they get to hoist that crystal ball. No, it's not the crystal ball. Where they get to hoist that stupid computer, that BCS computer. No, it's not that. That's right. When they get to hoist that golden cylinder, they call a championship trophy. Well, enough of that. Time to rub it in on Playmaker's face. Let's talk about what has happened over the past week or so on the gridiron scene in college football. All right, let me see here. Where should I start? All right. Well, I guess we could do the Fiesta Bowl first. Why not? You had the number 3 seed Boise State. They were waiting for Penn State to come in, and they were still waiting when the game was over. 31-14 was the final score. Unfortunately, Boise State had nothing for the Nittany Lions. Penn State was ready to roll. They were ready to go, and they smoked Boise State as if the turf was blue, but of course it was green because they were playing in the desert. This game was all Penn State from opening kickoff to the final gun. Now, yeah, you're saying, well, wait a minute, you look at the stats. Boise State, they gained more yards. They had more first downs. They even had a bigger time possession. Well, duh, I mean, with Ashton Genty, they should. But check out the stat that really matters. That's right. You see the turnover stat? I see 1 with Penn State, and I see 4 with Boise State. In big games, you cannot turn the ball over, no matter how well your offense runs, and no matter how good or stingy your defense is. If you turn the ball over that many times, chances are you're going to lose the game. And unfortunately for Boise State, they become spectators again. Now, does this mean that they aren't the big boys on the block? No, no. They've arrived. They just have to learn how to take that next step. As for Penn State, I actually had to give them credit. They actually came up big with a team that actually had a number less than 10, no, number less than 11 for a ranking. So I got to give James Franklin props. That's what, your second win against a top 10 ranked team in your tenure? Well, hopefully you can continue it. Uh, Nothing really to write home on the Penn State side except for the rushing. I mean, you got Mr. Allen for Penn State getting 134 yards and 17 carries. So that basically meant that, well, no matter how hard Boise State tried to stop uh, the uh, the Nittany Lions, they just simply couldn't do it. Genty got over 100 yards, but it took 30 carries to do it. Uh, you had Madsen got over 300 yards, 23-35 for 300 yards. And those 4 turnovers I mentioned, 3 of them came on his arm. He also did have a touchdown, but still 3 turnovers. And the receiving, you really don't have to doesn't really matter for Penn State. Mr. Lauder, 4 receptions, 96 yards on a touchdown. Actually, that didn't matter either because you had a team that took advantage of the mistakes that Boise State made. And that's just how it rolls. Well, in that Fiesta Bowl, you have Penn State, they advance, and they were waiting for the winner of the Georgia Notre Dame Sugar Bowl. But let's not go there yet. Let's go to Atlanta and the Peach Bowl, where, yeah, this has been probably the most hotly contested matchup of the 4, obviously. 39-31, Texas wins in double overtime. How can I put this? Arizona State, they clobbered them with yards. Each team turned over the ball once. They clobbered them in time possession. Of course, with Scatterbo, they should. And they almost doubled them in first downs. Arizona State, with the feverish comeback, should have won this game. What pisses me off was that the Longhorns were up 24-8 in the fourth quarter. This game should not have been going overtime, but we decided to just simply be absent-minded on both sides of the ball in the fourth quarter, and then overtime ensues, and then you needed to have a 4th and 13 saving touchdown pass. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Arizona State going on to the Cotton Bowl, not Texas. Sarkisian, get off of your behind, son. Learn that you were in the playoffs. Woosah. Woosah. Playmaker picked me to steer the ship. I'm not going to go on soapbox rants and tangents. Woosah. All right, so back that up a little bit, sir. All right, so Ewers, the quarterback for Texas, he did throw for 300 yards, over 300 yards, 20 of 30. He did throw for a pick, the one turnover they had, and he threw for 3 touchdowns. That's a decent game. I like that from him. What I don't like is the running game, which that's what they buried Clemson with. They didn't come close to burying Arizona State with it, with Weisner only getting 45. But Golden, he did shine with the wide receiver core, 149 yards of the touchdown on 7 receptions. He had a lot of key receptions until that feverish comeback that Arizona State have. Now, for the Sun Devils, Levitt had 222 yards. He did throw a pick. He did not throw a touchdown, 24-46. But we all know that Arizona State's offense does not surround itself by passing. It's the running. And Mr. Scatterbo was a man among boys yet again. 30 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. And they literally ran their way behind his legs to that overtime, well, I will say lead. And Scatterball also had almost 100 yards on the receiving end with 6 receptions. By far, this was the closest contest of the 4. Unfortunately, it should not have come down to that because Texas is proving to me that they're not ready to be the big boys. You should have smelled blood because you had Arizona State down, you had them out. You did not take them out, and you paid the price for it. But que sera, sera. Texas advances. They go back home to the home state where they will be playing the Cotton Bowl, and they're awaiting the winner of of Ohio State and Oregon. So all is well, right? Well, Texas better get ready because what we saw in that wonderful Rose Bowl game between Ohio State and Oregon, you saw a team in Ohio State wanting to get everything and then some against Oregon. Now, these two teams met in Eugene back in October. And if it wasn't for a boneheaded play by Howard, the quarterback of Ohio State, they probably would have lined up for a field goal and they probably would have stolen the game there. However, 32-31 was the final score. Oregon escaped with a victory. And they were undefeated all the way through until this game. And they picked the worst time to play the worst game of their season because it was 34-0 almost at the half. If they didn't get a 2-point conversion and a touchdown, it would have been donuts and a 34-point explosion in the first half for Ohio State. I mean, come on. Almost doubled them in yards. They really didn't need more time possession. They really didn't have to get first downs. All they had to do is just simply find an open man. And we'll talk about that open man in a second. And voila, 7 more points were put on the board. I am thoroughly impressed with how Ohio State has been. I mean, they ran through Tennessee and Columbus, and then they go to Pasadena, and they simply truck, and I do mean TRUCK, truck the Ducks. I mean, they took their conference rival, not their biggest conference rival, but they took a conference rival and dispensed them like they were just simply old panties. Old, dirty, funky panties. It just was nothing to the Buckeyes to lay waste to Oregon. Now, the aforementioned Howard, he really didn't impress all that much. 17-26, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, you probably say, well, wait a minute, Cole, that is impressive. Yeah, but really, it wasn't. My man, Mr. Smith, on the receiving end. 7 receptions, 187 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It literally looked like every time he received the ball, there wasn't a green jersey within 10 yards of him. Almost every time the pass was thrown to him. And not to be done, only 8 carries, 94 yards to Henderson. He also notched 2 touchdowns under his belt as well. Poor Ducks. You had Gabriel, the one of the Heisman Trophy also rans. He almost threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, 29-41. Unfortunately, the running game, which pretty much is their calling card, did not come a calling in the Rose Bowl. 7 carries, 14 yards to Mr. James. Mr. Holden, 7 receptions, 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. It just simply was not Oregon's day. I mean, Ohio State took it personal. They took it personal, and then they took it out on the Ducks. And now they advance to the Cotton Bowl. We will see them Friday night in Texas, in Arlington, and they'll face off against the Longhorns. Now, I feel for the Longhorns because they're going to have to come with a mighty effort to knock this team off. Because if Tennessee couldn't even lay a finger on them, and if the previous number 1 seed and number 1 ranked team almost throughout the whole season couldn't lay a finger on them, what can the Horns do? We'll touch on that a little later. And then finally we get to the Sugar Bowl, which unfortunately it was delayed a day, and it had to be delayed a day because you had a dummy who decided to run roughshod all over people in the French Quarter or in the CBD. But the game got underway, thankfully. It was supposed to be January 1st, but it got rescheduled to January 2nd. And I think Georgia probably would wish this game was rescheduled yet again. The final score was 23-10. The Fighting Irish beat down on Georgia. The game really was not that close. And Notre Dame basically dictated this one with a whole lot of physicality. I'm big on Georgia, unfortunately, even though they gained more yards and they had more first downs. The two stats that really are telling, time of possession, which was less for them than for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame not getting a turnover, or not turning the ball over, but they're getting 2 takeaways from Georgia. That sort of spelled the difference, along with the failed execution of the team. Of course, that failed execution really is highlighted by the fact that you did not have Carson Beck at quarterback. You had Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. We'll touch on that in a minute. Now, Leonard, who, of course, is transferred from Duke, not impressive, but he doesn't have to be impressive. All he has to do is lead. All he has to do is manage the game and lead. 15-24, 90 yards and a touchdown. That's all he has to do. Leonard on the ground, 14 carries and 80 yards. And through the air, Faison, not all that impressive. 4 receptions, 46 yards. Basically, this game was all about Notre Dame's defense. The aforementioned Stockton, 20 of 32, 234 yards and a touchdown. You had Etienne, who he was feeling himself later in the season. He just simply could not get started. 38 yards on 11 carries, and only a 67-yard reception for one Mr. Smith. I mean, this was just a thorough domination of one of the perennial powers, or at least the latest perennial power in college football. This was the weakest team in the last 5 years that Georgia has fielded, and Notre Dame put a foot to them. I mean, it was just not even close. And congratulations to Marcus Freeman. Now, I'll admit, I have been on his behind because he should not have lost a game to, of all teams, Northern Illinois in South Bend back in September, yet he did. But whatever he told them boys after that game, and in the week that led up to Purdue, which was the next game, it must have worked, because they have looked a whole lot more focused ever since, and they have run the table. So we went through the quarterfinals of the playoff. You have the semifinals. You have the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State. That will be tomorrow night. If you're watching this Wednesday, if you're watching this Thursday, it'll be tonight. If you're watching this after that, well, the game has already been played. And Friday night, you'll have the Cotton Bowl. Sorry, the Orange Bowl will be in Miami. Cotton Bowl, that will be in Arlington, Texas, or in between Fort Worth and Dallas, Texas, Ohio State. Now, if you want rankings, you have Penn State at number 6. You have Notre Dame at number 7. You have in the Cotton Bowl, or Ohio State at number 8, and Texas at number 5. So, yes, it is telling that all of the top 4 seeds fell to the bottom 4 seeds. It wasn't so surprising with the Texas-Arizona State and the Ohio State-Oregon contest, because Ohio State and Texas actually were favored. Surprisingly, they were. I thought I thought Oregon would come a little harder. They didn't. Oh well. Now the big line that Texas had, I thought that was a little too big, and they proved to be correct. I think it was the other two that you didn't think. Well, maybe people thought Penn State would advance, but I don't think anybody thought, even with Stockton at QB, that Georgia would fall so hard to Notre Dame. But fall they did, and here we are. All right. So now, who is going to be the 2 teams that we think is going to represent the national championship on January 20th? That's right. Martin Luther King Day is when the final is going to take place in good old A to the T to the L. Yeah, that's right. So the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr. is going to celebrate his birthday and celebrate a national champion to be. So we will definitely preview the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. Well, when you get back. This is Bearing Down the Gridiron.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kurt the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. On YouTube and where you can find all podcasts.
Shop hats and official sports gear at Lids. Lids is the leader and #1 destination for hats, gears, and everything that moves you, making it the perfect shop for fans to find official sports hats, merchandise, and gear. Represent your team, your town, and your style with a snapback adjustable fitted hat or beanie from thousands of college and pro teams. Browse the very latest sports jerseys and t-shirts from the best teams out there. Lids has officially licensed professional and college sport team apparel and hats featuring the hottest brands and trends. Shop online or visit one of the 100 stores across the country. Locker Rooms by Lids.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Monday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern, 2:05 p.m. Central. Exclusively on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side, left side.
I feel amazing. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm amazing. Oh, sorry, my bad. Welcome back to Bearing Down the Gridiron. I am Cole Johnson in place of the one, the only Mr. Pop Guard extraordinaire himself. That's right, the Playmaker, codename the Playmaker. And along with catching this on the Playmakers Blog YouTube channel, you can also catch this on my brother Wise LFA's Real Wise Radio Network. You can catch it Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's right. Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, you can catch this and every broadcast of Bearing Down the Gridiron. That's right, on the Real Wise Radio Network. Glad that we are part of that family. And I'm glad that my brother decided to pick up this wonderful show. It's been a wonderful marriage. Now, let's get down to business, shall we? The Rams are no, I'm just joking. So we're now down to the final four, and we're down to the final two big bowl games: the Cotton and the Orange, with the national championship in the horizon in a little less than 2 weeks' time. So the Cotton Bowl will be Friday night, but the Orange Bowl will be tomorrow night. Number 6 seed Penn State, number 7 seed Notre Dame. The kickoff will be all times are Eastern, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. I think what we're going to be seeing is which team team, and you have a team that really acts like a Big Ten team, although they're independent. Both want to assert their physicality in the festivities. So which one is going to assert it better? Both teams have already played 2 games en route to now. So we'll do a little bit of a comparison, shall we? Penn State first. So they had Happy Valley jump it, and SMU came to town. They froze physically and schematically. The final score was 38-10. I mean, Penn State jumped out to a 21-0 lead before SMU could have blinked. They controlled that game from start to finish, similar to the Fiesta Bowl. And when they played the Fiesta Bowl, I think what we had to understand is that you had a team in Penn State that I believe they had a chip on their shoulder, because they were hearing people like myself saying, yeah, you have a problem with teams that have one digit in front of their names whenever you play them, because you have issues playing ranked teams. We can think of one team that every year you play them, they're ranked, which is Ohio State. And in the 11 years, I believe, that James Franklin has actually been the coach of Penn State, you've been 1-10 against them. So they've had trouble beating top 10 ranked teams. Well, SMU was 11th, so they weren't in the top 10. But Boise State, you could say, was. They were ranked 3rd, and they trounced them. And they did it with a suffocating defense. They want to get out to the QB as fast as they possibly can, and they want to just simply shut down whatever you want to do and make your offense one-dimensional. That's just how Penn State has rolled throughout the year, and definitely that's how they've rolled in this playoff stretch. And then you have, I'm sorry. Now, and then you have Notre Dame. You're looking at them, and you're saying, okay, well, they are looking pretty good too. I mean, they had some impressive victories in the regular season. I mean, they put up 65 against Purdue. They gave Army and Navy their first losses. The Army lost in the Bronx. I mean, it was like 49-7. So I mean, they really stomped a mud hole in teams en route to now. And then when we get to the playoffs, so they had the game in South Bend where they hosted Indiana, and it was a 98-yard run by Leonard that basically just sealed things, and that was in the second quarter, and that basically was it. Indiana just could not recover. They just simply were out muscled by Notre Dame, and I don't even think it was the moment was too big for them. They just simply were out muscled by them. And then you get to the Sugar Bowl where we talked about it earlier. They started the scoring in the second quarter, and they just simply shut Georgia down. They seem to have this 11-on-1 feel when it comes to defense. They want to suffocate you. I'm not going to say they have athletes all around, but they do have more athleticism than usual for a Notre Dame program. And only when you have an 11 as one type of defense, you're thinking, okay, they rally to the ball when it tackles. And you probably see about 3-4 guys around the ball every time a tackle is made. So, there's going to be a lot of pressure that's stressed on both QBs. And on offense for Notre Dame, look, they're not great shakes. They're opportunistic on offense. Whatever they can get, they'll take. And they want to establish it with the run, but they just don't want to turn the ball over. That really is it. They want to have Leonard manage the game. And if he can manage the game, he's good. Now, now for injuries, you have Penn State's defensive end, Mr. Carter. He'll be a game time decision. Well, for Notre Dame, though, Mr. Love, the running back for them, it looks like he will be good to go tomorrow night. And speaking of Penn State, Mr. Franklin, the head coach of the Nittany Lions, he decided to just simply poke the leprechaun. I can't say bear, but he decided to poke the leprechaun in saying that college football playoff, it needs, quote, uniformity, close quote. Because every team should play for a conference championship game. Well, here's the thing, Mr. Franklin. When you can make the money that Notre Dame makes, and you can make the money for college football the way that Notre Dame does, then you can talk whatever game you want. They don't need to be in a conference. That's why they aren't affiliated with one. Otherwise, they would have been long affiliated with the Big Ten long before you decided to sign your John Hancock on the dotted line to be the Penn State head coach. Notre Dame is smart. They are the program that you talk about, whether they are 11-1 or 1-11. I mean, we talk about Notre Dame because everybody and their mama either wants to be there or they want to beat them. And if you want to know how impactful a program like Notre Dame is, Texas tried to do the same thing last decade. They wanted to flex their muscle in terms of how much they can make it rain in the club, so to speak. And they couldn't get too far because they had to be reminded, you're not the program you think you are. And remember, they stepped out, and you had Notre Dame. They stepped out. They signed on the dotted line with NBC back in the early 90s that every home game, and it still is to now, every home game will be televised by NBC. And that's been the running case for the last 32 years. Well, Texas, they were like, well, okay, you got Notre Dame. They have home games played on NBC, which, if you don't think that is a recruitment tool, I don't know what you're smoking, because it is one. It's probably the best, to me, it's probably the best recruitment tool that any team has. National profile. You'll get a chance to play in front of a big-time national crowd, and people love you in New York. People love you in LA. People love you in the Midwest. All the academies love you. Army, Navy, maybe not so much Air Force, but and we're Catholic school. We play Catholic schools too, like Boston College. So, I mean, you have all those ties that are in Notre Dame. Well, Texas was like, okay, well, they have this national platform. All right, fine. They can have a national platform. We'll have our own network. So they decided to have a subsidiary, ESPN channel. I mean, they still have it, but tell me the last time that any of you tuned in to a Texas game on the Texas ESPN channel. Whew, man, that silence is deafening. Look, Franklin, Notre Dame is a special case. You can claim they can play, they have to play. They must play for a conference championship. How dare the big boy go in and not have to do a conference championship? Because they are the straw which stirs the NCAA drink. That's why, Mr. Franklin. So if you can get Penn State up to that level, because it used to be an independent. Penn State used to be an independent just like Notre Dame, but I guess a lot of people, led by Joe Paterno, decided we may need to be affiliated with the conference. Big Ten, hello. So you can give me that conference championship game crap all you want. Fact of the matter is, beat the team in front of you. And yes, the team that's in front of you is Notre Dame. And tomorrow night, you get your chance to prove that maybe you need to have more uniformity and tell the big baddies from South Bend they need to play in a conference championship like you did. But the thing is, Notre Dame does not. So prove it to them. That is how you get it to change. Prove it to them. Prove it to them like in the two-team BCS championship race, where when Notre Dame had great years and they qualified if they had 0 or 1 loss on their schedule. When you had SEC teams boat race them in the championship game, or when it became 4 teams, the conference, not the conference, the national semifinal game. And then you had the committee actually do a double take. Well, maybe this team shouldn't play because I don't think they're as good. The name is strong, but the team sucks. Do that again to Notre Dame. Don't whine, don't kvetch, don't whimper. Because it makes me think that you're going to fall again. This time to the Golden Domers. And their favorite. The latest line I saw actually was 1.5. But yeah, their favorite. So you have the case that you can build to your boys, your young men. You're being disrespected. Yeah, you Middle Pennsylvanians are being disrespected. They're thinking Notre Dame is going to beat you. America wants Notre Dame to be one half of the championship game. You could sell this beautifully to your locker room. That's right. The Navy and white are being grossly disrespected. They want to see the Navy in the gold, and we have to put a stop to that. We have to upset America. Come on, tell them that, Franklin. But you might falter yet again. The Orange Bowl, sponsored by Capital One. You will see that game on ESPN, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night. That's right, January 9th, tomorrow night. And remember, Notre Dame is favored. Although they are the lower seed, they are favored. You'll see this as a running theme. Now, let's get to the Cotton Bowl, which that will be Friday night, January 10th. But Friday night, kickoff will be at 7:30. ESPN will carry that game as well. Now, for those who don't know, the Orange Bowl, that is in Miami, the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. The Cotton Bowl will take place in Gerald World, or AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. For those who don't know, that sits roughly in between, well, I would say probably is about 10 miles east of Fort Worth and 20 miles west of Dallas. But it basically is in the middle of those two cities. As you can see, the lower seed, once again, Ohio State, they're favored. Now, you'd probably say, Cole, aren't you upset that your team, Texas, who they actually were in a conference championship game, they're the underdog to a team that didn't even sniff a conference championship or conference championship appearance? No, I'm not. You have 2 wonderful reasons why. Number 1, Ohio State has trucked some teams. I mean, they trucked Tennessee. I'm sorry. Put a bookmark on this. Memo to Tennessee fan. We don't care that you decided to make the horseshoe half orange with a 42-17 stomping that your team took in Columbus, Ohio. You lost. You took an L there. You know, L loss means that your team is insignificant. It means that the 9 seed that you were meant nothing. The orange out that you tried to do meant absolutely bupkis. And so that I-71 to I-75 drive back to Knoxville meant nothing. You lost. So don't just be happy like, whoa, look at that. We dominated the horseshoe. Well, you were stone sober quiet. And you should have been, because Ohio State wasn't playing with you. They weren't playing with you. And then they should not have. They were sick and tired of hearing that they were being dominated by SEC teams, and they were definitely sick of having that putrid effort on November 30th against their arch rival Michigan at home. And they may have felt a little bit slighted by the fact that Michigan decided to put their flag in the middle of the horseshoe. Who knows? What I do know is they followed that 42-17 performance with a 41-21 performance in the Rose Bowl. I mean, you had revenge on the minds of the Buckeyes. I mean, they looked at that game in October and they said, okay. And you could tell, at least when they took the field in the Rose Bowl, they had in their minds this circled. They wanted a deal with Oregon. It didn't matter when. Quarterfinal, semifinal, national championship. Didn't matter. They wanted to have Oregon. They wanted to have another crack at them. And I'm sure they all felt to a man they were the better team. That because of a mistake, they lost in Oregon, in Eugene, which is true. A scramble up the field, 6 seconds to go in the game, and you don't call a timeout. Yeah. And by the time he slid, the time ran out. Yeah. So you have Ohio State. They dominated the first half against Oregon, and they just sleptwalked the second half. They didn't even have to appear in the second half. So now you have an offense that has scored 42 points in one playoff game, 41 points in another. Texas, you have your work cut out for you. That's one. And two, your road to get here. Now, I could say it was pretty good, but I can't. Yes, you had a 38-24 victory at home against Clemson. That's understood. Unfortunately, what is also understood is that you had control of that game, 31-10, I believe, and then all of a sudden you blink and it's 31-24. Follow me here. I see a pattern. You woke up in the fourth quarter. You decided to put forth a touchdown to make the final score what it is. Then you go from Austin to Atlanta, somewhat of a house of horrors type of thing. The SEC championship game was there. You played not to lose. I'll put it out there. You played not to lose, and you lost to Georgia, as you should have, because you just were not. You were just not good enough. But you played in the Peach Bowl. You were good enough to beat Arizona State. You were good enough to have a 2-touchdown with 2-point conversion leads on them. You had a 16-point lead, 24-8. And Arizona State literally ran down your throats back into the game. And then they go up 31-24. And then you lollygag on offense in overtime, almost to the point where you lollygagged your way out of the Peach Bowl taking an L. But you luck up, you get a touchdown, you get the extra point, and then the very next play, you score a touchdown, you get a 2-point conversion, which, of course, in the second overtime, you have to go for 2-point conversion. And then you get an INT to seal the deal. Let me see. You almost choked away a 21-point lead against Clemson. You did choke away a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter to Arizona State, and you had to put forth a miracle touchdown to save the game and for you to get the touchdown and 2-point conversion in the second overtime to get the final score that you got here and to get the Cotton Bowl placement that you now currently enjoy. But you're not dealing with a team that is going to roll over. Now, am I hoping that they revert back to when they played Michigan and they took Michigan for granted and they thought, oh, we're 20-point favorites. We will steamroll this team. They're busters. They're jokes. No, I don't think they are. I don't think they are because I think the message has gotten through to them. They think you are a joke. Let's show them who the real jokes are. And so far, people are laughing at Tennessee, and they're laughing at Oregon. Texas, it's your turn. And I'm not saying that I'm rooting against you. I'm rooting for you. I want you to win. But the way you have been in the playoffs and the way Ohio State has been, you can't choke away these double-digit leads. You choke away any lead against Ohio State, you might as well pack up right there. You might as well pack up on the field and take that long trip from Dallas to Austin with an L and say to Ohio State, congratulations, you won this game. Have fun in the national championship. We'll be watching. Because that's exactly what you'll be doing. You have the ability to be physical with Ohio State. You have the ability to do it. You have a running game that for some reason it's here one game, it's gone the next. And that running game is necessary for Ewers to be stabilized because if that running game isn't there, he's not so sure with the arm. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying he's not confident with it. Howard on the other end looks like he's found his mojo, and he's just connecting dots. It's not even they're not even playing. I mean, Ohio State is coming for necks. And Longhorns, you better not lay down on that chopping block because your neck is about to be chopped off. You know, and Playmaker knows I do this straight with no chaser. I think Notre Dame is going to go on to the national championship. Texas, you better prove me wrong. Ohio State is going to beat you down, and they're going to beat you down bad. And you're not going to like the beating that you're going to receive in Dallas. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it, but you'll have to take it. And then we'll all be hearing, well, we see SEC, all you suck. No, it's not the SEC sucks. It's you have a blue blood program stepping up to the plate, as they should. Again, 7:30 p.m., ESPN will have that kickoff, opening kickoff at 7:30. ESPN will carry the game. Friday night, the Cotton Bowl, sponsored by Goodyear, Texas, versus Ohio State. Now, who between Ohio State and Texas and Notre Dame and Penn State do you believe is going to play for the national championship in Atlanta? In the description, under the description box below, give us your thoughts as to who you believe is going to be representing the 2024 or 2025, but for the 2024 year national championship. Well, I hope you enjoy the wonderful viewing that you'll have tomorrow night with Notre Dame and Penn State, and Friday night with Ohio State and Texas. I'm sure those will be good games. Those four have actually played pretty well throughout the playoffs thus far. and for the exception of one game, and that would be Texas and Arizona State. Every team that we have seen in this field that has gone to the semifinals, they have won by double digits, except for that one game by Texas in the Peach Bowl. Every game these two teams, every game these four teams have played, they have beaten their opponents by double digits. So hopefully we will not see two more double-digit victories / defeats. Hopefully we'll see a competitive game. Hopefully we'll see competitive games in Miami and in Arlington, respectively. But what I hope that we'll be seeing more than anything is the fact that people will say that this is what we need to have, and we need to have more of it. This college football playoff, I actually have enjoyed it. And I want to see more of it. I want to see where they go with this, how they continue with it, because so far in the very first year, I'm loving what I am seeing. Well, I believe that is all that I have for this edition of Bearing Down the Gridiron. Now, you can catch me. Well, I've been on a hiatus for a minute, but I'm going to be coming back. But you can catch me every morning, or starting Monday, every morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central, 5 a.m. if you're out on the West Coast, on the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel. You see it in the background. BS3 presents the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. That's right. And we talk about any and everything: health, politics, entertainment, social justice, sports, weather, spirituality, or Christianity. We touch on it all. So, and yes, we'll even touch on college football, and I'll touch on the remnants of who's going to be the two teams standing in Atlanta and when and after the national championship game. We'll touch on that on the Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. We will do that. Well, more than likely, you'll be seeing the Playmaker coming back next week, and he'll review the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, and he will give you a preview to the national championship game between either Ohio State and Texas against Penn State or Notre Dame. Well, until then, I hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we will see you next week for the Playmaker, the Pop God Don. I am Cole Johnson, the EP of all EPs, the mad scientist, and the host of all hosts, here to bid you adieu and have a wonderful rest of your day. So long, everybody.